Welcome to the Community Preservation Committee meeting held at One Government Center in the City Council hearing room. You can hear this meeting through Comcast Channel 18, Fred TV, Facebook, and live stream. It's Monday, August 21st, 6:02, 2023. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit this meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recording or transmissions are being made perceived or unperceived by those present and deemed acknowledged and permissible. We'll start with roll call. To my left.
Joanne Bentley, present.
Alexander Silva, present.
Kristen Cantara Olivera, present.
John Brandt, present.
Richard Calderon, present.
Rick Mancini, present.
And we're missing Victor Ferris tonight, and we have missing an open seat on the City Council, and a planning board seat is open too. Do we have any citizen input? Okay, no one are signed up. Can I have a motion for approval of the minutes from May 15th, 2023?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 15th, 2023.
And a second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, roll call vote?
Joanne Bentley, yes.
Alexander Silva, yes.
Kristen Cantara Olivera, yes.
John Brandt, yes?
Richard Calderon, yes.
Rick Mancini, yes.
I don't think
Okay.
we need to do a roll call vote, though, because we're not on Zoom. I
Oh,
think that's only for
Actually,
Zoom.
yeah.
that makes it, for those guys, a lot easier. We have one project extension, the Dr. Fisk House. They're asking for another 2-year extension.
We're supposed to be doing the annual meeting first. I think you're reading from the wrong agenda.
No, I have that.
I think
Yep.
it's the
Annual meeting is first.
We had two here. This is scheduled for.
Yeah, 6 PM, and then this one's
As soon
right
as the
after.
other one ends.
Immediately following 6 p.m. the annual
There's two
meeting.
agendas.
See, that's the regular agenda, and this is the annual, immediately following 6 PM annual meeting, so the annual meeting is first.
Oh, okay, the way I'm reading it says annual meeting follows. Okay, all righty,
This is what was on the city website. so you should do-
okay. We don't have a financial team here yet. I think they were coming afterwards. Can I have a motion to do the annual meeting after our meeting? To give them time to get here?
Do you want to do the message from the chair and election of officers first?
Um,
Out of order?
Yes, we can do that. Okay.
Motion to take out of order, number 6.
Can we have a motion to take out of order and hear the financial report when the city finance team gets here?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote?
No, we don't need to.
No?
Just
Okay,
all those in favor.
all righty.
You gotta do all those in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All righty. Let's see, next is a message from the chair. On behalf of the Community Preservation Committee, I would like to thank everyone for their continued support of the Community Preservation Act, CPA, helping to make our community a better place. As chairman of the committee, I would like to extend my gratitude to each and every committee member for their efforts in coming together and accomplishing the work in a timely, thoughtful, and efficient manner. The Community Preservation Act, CPA, is a smart growth tool that helps communities preserve open space, historic sites, create affordable housing, and develop outdoor recreational facilities. The Community Preservation Committee has funded over 100 projects, including historic preservation, open space, recreation, community housing. The hard work, commitment, and dedication of this committee has made a real difference in improving Fall River's parks, restoring, preserving our historic buildings and assets, protecting and preserving our precious open space, and creating affordable housing. Anyone interested in applying for CPC funds can do so by September 15th, 2023 before noon. By filling out eligibility application, go to official municipal websites of City of Fall River, Massachusetts Community Preservation Committee, and official website of the Fall River, City of Fall River. Then go to guidelines and application. Be sure to read through the allowable expenses so you know if you are eligible to apply. Our involvement on this committee is an example of the value that we can contribute, an incredible, unique opportunity of giving back to our community. I look forward to working with the committee and our community partners during the FY25 funding year. Respectfully, John Brandt. Thank you. Next is election of officers. We'll start with Chairman. Can I have nominations?
I'll nominate John Brandt.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
All those in favor, no?
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is Vice Chair. I'd like to nominate Christine Oliveira.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next is Clerk. I'd like to,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'd like to nominate Alex Silva.
okay. All in favor?
We need a
Aye.
second.
And I'll second
I'll
Oh,
that.
second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All righty. Okay. Well, thank you, folks. Look forward to another exciting year. All right, so that closes out our annual meeting.
No.
The financial
We have to wait for
report.
financial report to close.
Okay. We're going to table the annual meeting till the Finance Committee gets here. So can I have a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table the financial report until the finance team arrives.
Okay. Second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Roll call vote?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty. We'll move on to our meeting.
You have to close out this
Oh.
meeting.
Well, we're not closing it out.
Yeah, you're closing it out. You have to
I
close
don't
this.
think we can close it.
Can you close it and then
We
reopen?
can't, yeah, we can close it and then reopen it. We can close it
I
temporarily.
think you're supposed to take you can take a recess
Yeah.
Okay.
and then come back. You can't close it
All right.
because we're not done for the day.
So
You have
can
to
I have
recess.
a motion to recess on the annual meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All righty.
I'll make a motion to reopen the annual meeting.
Okay,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, looks like we won't have the financial report from the city financial team. So that concludes our annual meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn the annual meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Don't need it.
No, no
All
need?
those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okey-doke. All righty. Moving on to our regular meeting, Community Preservation Committee regular meeting held at the One Government Center, Fall River. The meeting can be watched on Channel 18, Fred TV, Facebook, live stream. It's 6:15. Pursuant to the open meeting laws, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present are deemed acknowledged and permissible. We'll start with roll call.
Joanne Bentley, present.
Alexander Silva, present.
Kristen Cantara Olivera, present.
John Brandt, present.
Richard Calderon, present.
Rick Mancini, present.
And we're missing Victor Ferris. Open seat on the city council and an open seat on the planning board. Any citizen input? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next. Can I have approval for the minutes from May 15th?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 15th, 2023.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All righty. Next on the list is project extension, the Dr. Fisk House FY21 budget.
And I have to recuse myself as a member of the board.
Okay. How we doing, Jim?
Okay. Thank you for asking. Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Soul. I'm the president of the Preservation Society of Fall River. I reside here in Fall River at 577 Rock Street. And thank you for having me tonight. We had this project, which in my head, I thought was complete. And what happened was most of it is done. And, but the apartment, the unit, the 7 windows hadn't been completed. The tenant at the time was recovering from a fractured hip, and I think that there was some pushback to the contractor. So the contractor just kind of waved his hands of it and let it go. Since then, the tenant passed away. And that was about 3 months ago, so I think it was back in about May. We realized that the work hadn't been completed, and so it was pushing our deadline. So we wanted to make sure it was okay before we moved ahead to try to finish up those last 7 windows. I think it seems like we're coming in under budget anyways, but like I said, we wanted to make sure it was okay to move ahead.
It's looking good, so keep up the good work on that. Can I have a motion to extend the project?
I got a
deadline?
couple questions.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
So you said the contractor just, I guess, disappeared. And the windows, did you guys order the windows already?
He's repairing the windows.
He's repairing the windows.
So they're the original windows to the house.
Okay, okay. Are you guys looking into getting new contractor? Is that what it is?
No, he didn't really disappear. He's actually a pretty good guy who comes back year to year. I know he's working in Fall River on another project right now. It's not that he disappeared, it's that the tenant pushed back when he wanted to come into the house to do the work.
Okay,
Because he did all the other windows that he was supposed to do.
right.
But the 7 that were in that particular unit, he just couldn't get to.
Right, okay. Is there a schedule now then? Is he on schedule now that the tenant you said passed,
He's-
I believe?
Well, the schedule is to complete, he's working on a project on the waterfront right now in Fall River.
Okay,
And it should be very soon, is what he keeps telling me, but he hasn't given me a date.
okay, so soon there's no date.
Right.
Okay.
But he knows how the CPA works. He knows that things do need to be done timely.
Okay.
So I'm hopeful he's not going to blow us off.
Well, that's not good. That doesn't sound like a reliable contractor, so.
Well, he's done a nice job on windows, he has done, so.
He's- The problem is he has a crew, and he's a high demand kind of guy. But we've used him for several projects, and I just can't give you a date.
No, yeah, I understand. I mean, if he's high demand, he should definitely have a schedule, because, I mean, if you have that much business, you gotta be organized.
Yeah.
That's
So
just my thought.
I have a question. This is a time extension, but not any additional money,
Not additional money, no.
right? And what is the time extension you're asking for?
We do 2 years on extensions. It's always a flat 2 years.
It's always a flat 2 years?
Yeah.
So we can't limit to, let's say,
Like
I'm
6
sure-
months or
right.
something? Like,
I
can
know where
we
you were
get it
going
done
with
by
that. I know you were
December
going.
kind of thing?
But it wouldn't really matter if it's 2 years or 6 months. When the
Yeah.
project is completed, if there are any funds remaining, they'll come
Yeah,
back
we'll
here.
sign off on a project.
And if there is
yeah.
a glitch, the added time would help complete the project, so
Well, I'll tell you, I'm concerned anyways, because I have another project back to this, and I don't want to be in a situation where all of a sudden I can't apply more, I can't come back because I'm waiting for projects that
Yeah.
are overdue. And I know that sometimes that's an issue. So
Yeah.
I'm concerned about it myself.
Yeah, no, so, I mean, to the board member on my right, I mean, I don't think it's a matter of funding giving back, or no, as long as it gets that. I think it's a matter, I mean, if let's say 50% of the project's been completed, 75%, I mean, you're kind of cruising along, you want to say, okay, we'll see you in 2 years. I mean, we kind of want to wrap this up
Absolutely.
and move forward. I mean, I think we can agree to that.
Absolutely.
So I think that's, my colleague to the left was kind of where she was getting at, and I was kind of thinking the same thing. But, I mean, the rules are the rules. If it's 2 years, it's 2 years.
Now, we just have a standard 2 years.
No, right, no, I understand.
I mean, Jim's been before us for 2 projects to
Several.
this building, so
Yeah.
it's been moving along pretty good, so.
Yeah, I don't think that you would want it to linger either, so I'm sure you're gonna be doing your part.
Yeah,
and
I'll-
Making
on-
sure that you're in contact with him to get in there.
I'd be
The
shocked
guy-
if he's not on site within 2 months, and I'd
Yeah.
be doubly shocked if it's not done within 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would feel comfortable if, if he can just give some kind of timeline, I think that would be helpful, not just for the board, but for you as well, to kind, I mean, from what you said, you have projects back to back, so I think a timeline, you know, goes along when you're doing construction, you know, so, unless you're doing it yourself, then
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a little different, so.
all right. Well, if you can just shoot us an email when he has a schedule.
I can do that.
Okay,
Yeah, perfect.
all right. So can I have a motion to grant the extension?
I'll make that motion to grant the 2-year extension.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Good luck. Next, we have up Notre Dame, the sale. The sale's gone through quite a while ago, because we had this on our agenda for June. They have not contacted us for the use of the funds or anything. So I'd like to make a motion to rescind the grant, put it back into CPA.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Okay.
if you just want a little discussion, I can give you an update. I was there today
Okay.
at the site. It's a new contractor. They're out of Boston. And they're waiting to get power in the building. They're just doing cleanup at this point. And they're going to try and follow the original drawings of the project, so there's not gonna be any changes at this point. And the contract was signed in April for the new purchase for this new organization. So it's been out, they've had it for the
Yeah.
last, 3-4 months.
I mean, they can always reapply,
Absolutely.
but not reaching out, I just figured
Yeah.
it's best to,
I'm in total agreement. I think the new applicant should reapply. I
Yeah.
agree.
And then also, I think the old grant was to a whole different entity,
It
so
was.
it's
Yeah.
not valid, just
I was
because
listening.
of the sale.
yeah,
Mhm.
Bingo.
yeah.
I think it was similar when we were talking
Yeah.
about the Water Street
Yeah,
project.
because I mean, just saying that they're gonna try to follow
I
the
mean,
drawings is just kibosh for
it's-
me.
they
If they
have
would've
to
came to us
reapply.
at the beginning and said, you know, we plan on following the same thing and we like the deed restriction, yeah, we could probably make it work, but it's been, 4 months, so
Mhm.
no communication. I think it's best to rescind.
Mhm.
So you made the motion, second?
I think colleague to the left made the second.
Okay.
Kristen.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Alrighty. Document review. What I thought I'd do is go over how the CPA comes in.
The process, you mean?
Process, yeah. CPC committee meets every third Monday of each month. If the holiday, it's on a Tuesday. Then the first thing that is eligibility. Now, when we did these forms, we did them back in 2012, and every year we've kind of looked them over and tweaked them a little. And I think Alex made some, basically, just some grammar and,
You just had it.
is that
I
it?
just saw it, right.
Right there. Okay, yeah.
No, that's not it.
No,
It was right after that, right there.
oh, okay. No, I thought we had one.
That's eligibility, isn't it?
The guidelines for eligibility is real.
Yeah,
I-
well, this is the
There was
guidelines.
I marked what I had for discussion beyond the grammar and typo kind of stuff. if you
Right
want.
here. Application for CPA eligibility.
Yeah, okay,
That's the guidelines.
okay, the guidelines. Did you want to remark on your comments?
Yeah, so just under the guidelines for eligibility, the one thing I thought would be worth discussing beyond the typos and stuff, which everyone can review if they want, it's just like spacing and commas and stuff, is changing applicants from recommended to attend the meetings to required to attend the meetings. I think in this past year, we were kind of leaning in that direction, and rather than kind of giving them the option, if we wanted to just make it a requirement right at the beginning of the process, they could prepare for it. Because if we're not gonna, make any decisions pending a meeting, we might as well require them to come.
I'm in agreement with that.
Can I ask, so on this next round, they're due September 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So would they then come to the September meeting?
they have to file by the September 15th. That's
No,
it.
Oh, no,
September
I thought it
1st.
was September 1st,
September 1st,
and then January 15th.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
September 1st.
There's a,
Yeah.
there's a hearing they attend after we
But-
receive all the applications.
So I'm not saying this correct. So is that hearing at our September meeting? No.
There's
Okay.
usually what we do is we set a date for the hearings, and it depends how many projects, because if we get a lot of projects, then we split it sometimes into 2 meetings.
Okay.
So, and then they usually get a letter, Sandy Dennis will send out a letter to them to let them know that they're required to come to, you know, this particular meeting for eligibility to answer any questions.
It just
Okay.
used to be, we recommend you come to this meeting.
Yeah.
Now we're
Oh.
kind of requiring.
I think that's a great idea,
Yeah.
that they're required to come.
any other discussion on the eligibility?
Is
Okay.
that it, Alex?
That was the one
Okay.
for that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely.
The checklist, I think we have everything covered on that. We've added taxes over the years, a couple other things. Any comments or changes or, okay. All right. Let's see, they have to turn in 10 copies to us. Now, the next round would be the funding application.
That's due January 15th.
Yeah, due January 15th. Did we mark anything on that, Alex?
That one I didn't get to the word markings, it's just my hand copies, so
Okay.
I have to send it, but I marked the bigger changes. The first thing I was gonna suggest, would be to change at the beginning, so proposals for CPA funding must be submitted by downloading or using the attached application form. All relevant information requested on the application form must be included with the proposal for it to be deemed responsive. That way we kind of start the language at the beginning where if they don't meet future criteria, we will deem them unresponsive, has kind of happened this last year when, you know, deadlines were met and then we kind of had that cutoff period. So
Yep.
rather than denying applications, we could just deem them not responsive to the requirements that we put forward. And I have that just sprinkled in a couple places where relevant, but this is like the one spot, I'll just explain it if that works for you all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
So just deeming them responsive or deeming them unresponsive pending the placement.
So would you then also just add to it to be like crystal clear, any missing paperwork will be automatically considered unresponsive?
I
Something like that,
didn't get
or-
into listing the specific ways they could be deemed
Oh,
unresponsive.
okay.
It's mostly just saying if it doesn't meet
it
the
doesn't meet
requirements
it, okay.
as requested, it's not responsive. If that
Okay.
works.
But then
I mean,
that
I
also-
can send the changes
So, but
for
that
everyone
also
too.
means, is there a way to make sure that they understand that that means we're not gonna consider their application? Is there somewhere in there that says that?
It
Like-
only says it more strongly now than it did
Okay.
before.
I'm
So
just.
could you say considered
I
unresponsive
mean-
and your application will not be considered?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's
Something
essentially
like
what
that.
deemed not responsive means.
Right, I know.
But like,
We we may know that, but you may need to put it in.
I can
Yeah.
add stuff, but we can add whatever you want to the final version when
I
Sandy
mean,
kind of gets it around.
Basically on there, but we had a number of them last year who didn't get the number of quotes, or this
Yeah.
was missing, and,
It's
you know,
just
it
so
was
people are
important to
expecting
the project,
things.
you know, that, how can we make a decision if we don't have all the information?
So what you can do is, from what Alex is saying, so it's basically like a bid opening. When you do a bid opening, you know, there's a ton of paperwork that you have to fill out. Usually the requirements is statute unless you make them a requirement in a bid, right? So you have that kind of leniency to do that. If we want to get a packet from applicants that are submitting, there's certain documentation that we require, we can just put it somewhere, you know, in the top left, or just create an index that says, you know, required forms.
Yeah.
You know, that way they know, okay, in the application, you know, in this section here, you put all the required forms. So that's what we do in a bid opening, where you can say, this section is all the required forms. If they're not, they're just deemed, you know,
And like a-
unresponsive.
a failure to submit any one of these is
Yeah.
considered
And
unresponsive.
that's our checklist, which we just looked
Yeah,
at.
I
No,
think-
right, that's what, I'm just kind of just trying to explain a little bit more of what, the
Yeah.
direction you're going, it's, I
So,
agree with
like,
I
hundred
agree.
The
percent.
answer could be the checklist is what
Could
we.
be the
I
checklist,
could put
or
it like
see the
on that
checklist for
checklist.
required
Right.
documents or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah, just, we can do like, you know, like, again, just a little checkbox, like, so that way they know, like, okay, I, you know, submitted, you know, 3 quotes, I submitted, you know, this, so that way they kind of, you know, just make it a little bit more easier for the applicant, so that way when they submit the packet, it's a complete packet, and then if something's missing, I mean, obviously, it's, they have to do the due diligence to make sure everything's submitted,
Right.
and then when it gets here, if it's not, then it's just,
Yeah.
you know,
We do have on the.
either
pro-
responsive or non-responsive, there's no in between.
We do have on the sheet already that the project budget, when submitting a budget, please provide 3 quotes. So it is in there, so
Yeah,
it's,
But,
but now it's, would be deemed non-responsive if they
Yeah.
don't provide it,
So-
sort of
Right.
thing.
yeah.
but I think in order to, you should just explain deemed non-responsive means your application will not be considered.
I can add that.
Just so that they fully understand what that means. Non-responsive means your application will
Sure.
not be considered.
We can add it to
Yeah.
our terms as well. We have a term
Okay.
sheet, I believe, in the
Good.
annual
Yeah.
plan.
Yep.
Good.
Can we add, if there were, if we're gonna do quotes, I mean, again, I'm not, so you guys know I've been in public service for a while, but I created a lot of forms, and one of them was a quote form where it's just very, very simple, where you can just put in the contract information and just the amount. So that way, this form, it just basically has 3 sections, and you put all 3 quotes in there along with the price sheet, so it's just as part of a backup documentation. You know, so that way they have that there, we kind of, we can see it, view it. and just-
You mean instead of flipping through and
Yeah,
finding
and
all
see-
3, it's like listed
I mean, they
just
can still
on one
provide,
sheet, like-
right, they
Yeah.
can still provide their information, but it just makes it
More
just
like a
easier for.
summary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Just makes it easier for us, more cleaner, I think, and it's that way, it's kind of like everything all in one, and just, and it makes them just, it kind of gives them that little push to
They
to
still
get in.
need to show us the quote, but this would be the summary of it.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be required to put like the company's information. I mean, I know in some cases there's gonna be, I mean, I don't, we're gonna dive in deep, where if someone does get a quote, I mean, a contractor is not required to provide them with a quote, they can just say, they can be unresponsive and say, hey, we can't, you know, we can't do that. So that's something you guys also need to consider as well too, that if they say, hey, cause, you know, like for me, I do it on a daily basis, so I kind of know what's required with someone like them. It's like, well, I can't get someone, someone might automatically think like we have to get someone to give us a number, but in a lot of cases, it's just specialty work where they might not get that individual, so we have to be cognizant of that too. So
Yeah.
just a thought, just to put it out there.
Yeah, well, we can deem it responsive pending, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they
Take an
submit the
effort,
form
you
and we
know.
can, yeah, so,
Just keep in mind that on the city side, if their bids, they can't use them, so you really can't hold them to, because
well, yeah,
they
so.
get quotes, and then when they put it out for the RFP,
Those
can't-
Yeah, there's,
people
so there's,
can't
so there's
have
two
a
differences,
arrow
yeah, so
at
with the
that point.
city, when it's on the city side, you have law, procurement law. So the procurement law, when you do a open bid, which is a invitation for bid, because this is all construction, there's no RFP, that's request for proposal, they have to put that out to bid. When it's a quote by statute, anything between 10 to 50,000, anything under 50,000, they can submit quote, anything from 0 to 10,000, it's on business practice. But if it's, the requirement is to get quotes, by law, they have to solicit to get quotes.
They might not receive.
I was
but you
just
could
about to say
solicit
that.
5 and maybe get 2, because that,
Yeah.
same thing, I do it all day long. We
Thank you.
solicit
Yeah,
quotes.
I know. I
Doesn't
was-
mean you're gonna get them, but
Yeah.
you try.
Thank you for finishing for me. 'cause
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, I know it.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for 20-something years. I know how it works, but.
am I hearing anything that translates to, like changes in the document you want wording wise, or it just keeping it kind of as is and then on a case by case basis, the committee determines?
Yeah.
Or is there-
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just throwing the recommendations, just trying to, I mean, but I do like what you're
Okay.
saying, it's either response, just to simplify,
Yeah.
because I think, for me, I mean, if someone's, some people do their due diligence and, they're new to it, they don't, they might not really understand the process, because it can, it's new, they're new, and it might get a little confusing, and something might be overlooked, and it's like, hey, you know, so
Well,
it's just.
They do have from October to January to call for help.
Yeah.
You know, and everything's pretty much stated there. The only thing we don't want to get into, like last year, where we had them come in, present, and then they didn't have something, and then we said, okay, get it to us at the next meeting,
Mhm.
and then we, you know,
Waited and waited.
yeah,
Yeah,
when we go over a project, I'd like to have it completed, and that way
Can we
know.
add maybe language to what Alex is saying, so like, as part of the, you know, let's say I'm gonna call it the index, or whatever you wanna call it. Maybe have language just saying, you know, if you have any questions in regards to, you know, any of the required forms, please call, you know, this number or email.
That is in there.
Yeah.
You know,
That is
okay,
in
it
there
is.
to contact Sandy. Yep,
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
in there.
Just,
Yeah.
maybe we can put, you know, before the deadline or something like that. That way it's not like
Well, the
it's
thing,
hitting it right.
when they come to eligibility, when they come to the eligibility hearings, we tell them straight up at the meeting, these are the things that you need.
Yeah,
This is what needs to be done, this is when it needs to be done by. So we do make it very clear at that meeting exactly what they need to do and when they need to do it by,
Mhm.
and like if there's other things. So, I mean, there's only so much hand-holding you
Yeah.
can do. I mean,
I know.
you know, at
And-
some point, if they want the money, they're gonna have to just like anything else. If you go to a bank and you're applying for a loan, the bank's not gonna hold your hand and say, oh, well, you know, we'll let you do that, we'll let you do this. It's the same thing, you know, so at some point, they have to be responsible for what they're doing. And we make it very clear, like, this is what you need to do, this is what we're gonna need from you, you have to get da-da-da-da-da, and it's there, like, if they need a letter of recommendation from, like, say, the Historical Commission, we tell them right out, you have to get this, it's your responsibility, so it's their responsibility to contact the Historical Commission,
Right.
and they can't wait until January 1st to do it, and then they're gonna miss the deadline, so, I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
Right.
we do make it clear at the meeting, so I
And
don't
we
think
can
we need to.
enforce it a little more in September at the meeting. when
Yeah.
Every applicant will make sure I tell them that everything must be in the package.
Ready to go, but,
January.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so that application is due in January, 10 copies, and we have a funding hearing, deliberation, then we vote. Then we got some more paperwork, but to finish this out, after we're done with the voting, we send it up to the mayor for his approval and appropriation order. Then the final report, he drafts it, and then he sends it to the city council. City council votes on it somewhere around beginning of July. We try to get it in before the budget. And that's about it on that.
I had more changes too to the funding application form.
Oh, you did? Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
5 more, just so you're
Okay,
aware.
Five.
Yeah, they won't be long. So just back to the funding application submission form, section 6, project budget. This is an easy one. We have it mentioned later in the application, but I think under budget, we should have them a section for the contingency. We mentioned at the end that 10% is suggested. Given what we've seen, I would just say contingency 10 to 20% and let them kind of take it from there. But just including a box, you know, in the
Yeah.
project budget that we have now for contingency and starting it there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be safe saying 20% would probably be better because rising cost of goods are,
Or at least 15,
yeah.
somewhere in the middle, 15, 20.
Okay, so you're all set with that
Mhm.
change?
Mhm.
Okay. Then section 9 under implementation. It just says number 9 implementation, who is responsible for overseeing this project. I think we should just add and making sure it meets CPA funding guidelines.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, just gotta.
Oh, that's
Quick. Then under 10 maintenance, there's kind of a few changes on this one. So it starts with section 10 maintenance, then A, B. If if ongoing maintenance is required, who will be responsible for it? I think we should start with what is the expected maintenance of the project after completion, and then say if ongoing maintenance is required, who will be responsible for it? So it's a more holistic view of the long-term maintenance of the project. Then B, how will it be funded? I think we should just replace it with how will maintenance year over year be funded. I think it's just more useful. I honestly think that little square for maintenance budget could probably be eliminated. I don't think we've used it particularly yet. It hasn't generally been filled out too well either, and I think it's kind of a hard number to predict 5 years out for some of these projects, but we could keep it if that's a sticking point with some people. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that now or.
No, I agree with you that, you know, trying to project what your maintenance costs are gonna be 5 years from now is not
Yeah.
an easy target.
It's kind of changing 10B, asking how it'll be funded year over years,
Right, and
almost
they
answering
could-
the same
Yeah,
thing, but
yeah.
giving them
Yeah,
And then
probably
you can
the more
also-
accuracy level.
Yeah, and you can see if you're asking what are the expected maintenance, you know, costs or just whatever the plan is, like for maintenance, what they're gonna need, then obviously they're gonna have a better idea, so, yeah, that
Does
makes
that
sense.
sound good with everyone?
yeah,
That sounds
sounds
good.
good.
Then next one, I have it listed as 10.5, but it would probably be the new number 11. I think this would be a perfect spot to add a deed restriction section and just say, like acknowledge that there will be a deed restriction attached to the properties, because I find us making sure that they are aware that there'll be a deed restriction attached to the property, and just kind of having that in the the funding submission form, I think would be beneficial. And then we could also have a section asking if there are any existing deed restrictions on the property, which are it's in the checklist, but I think it should be in the actual form too. And then they
Okay.
could kind of extrapolate
Kinda
rather than
double-
checkboxing it.
Yeah,
But for open space recreation, there's no deed restriction.
well, there is
Yeah.
for
So-
open space.
There's,
I mean, oh, that's right, if they're buying it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but recreation, like things like that, we don't put a deed restriction?
well, it could be
Most
worded if
parks
the
already have
project's.
a deed restriction, so we,
Yeah, it could be worded if the project needs, or if the.
Yeah, so,
Okay,
yeah,
alright.
It
right.
doesn't have to
Okay.
say,
Yeah, cause
Will
then
have it,
I don't
some,
want, yeah, that's the thing, I
know,
don't want everybody
yeah.
thinking they're automatically gonna have one if it's not.
no, that, it could be worded, you know,
Alright.
appropriately. So is everyone okay with that addition?
yeah.
And then the last one for this, it's in section 12 under other information. It's the asterisk at the bottom, which mentions the contingency. It is recommended that the applicant include, it says a 10% contingency. I suggest we change to at least a 10% contingency. And then any funds granted and not used, and then I want to add on the approved scope must be returned to the Community Preservation Committee. On the approved scope is the addition. So kind of tying the funds to the approved scope. If the like, you know, we've had kind of
Yeah.
some questions where we just want to reiterate it. I think it'd be good to just reiterate it here.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, sounds good.
And that's basically it. There's other typo stuff, which I will send Sandy, and if you guys really want to go at that, you can. Just
No,
like
that
little
sounds-
grammar stuff.
Pretty good to me. Let's see, what else? We do have a community preservation certificate of non-conclusion. Pretty basic, simple.
Is certificate on collusion yet? Okay.
Yeah. Like Alex would fill this out because he deals with, Dr. Fisk's house, so he
Yeah.
would be filling that out. Then we have a certificate of payment request. Each member, I'm not quite, everyone's seen this one, right? Okay. You get this when you, the committee member, the architect, the grantee, city department, the contractor signs off on it. And then you sign off on it when the work is all done. We verify it, make sure. I don't think anything needs to be done there. Then the certificate of completion, just basically saying the project is done and you're closing it out, and then any money would come back to us that is out there. Same thing, committee member, architect, city department, that's pretty cut and dry. And that's all the forms we have. Any other questions on document reviews? Okay, so we'll make those changes. Next is the CPC plan. I don't have a copy. Oh, no, yeah, right here. I think this is it.
No, it's the one with the image on it.
The image, yeah. We started working on that. We added new pictures, updated some of the verbiage on it.
It looks really nice.
Yeah, so, when Sandy's done putting that all together, it's almost like the beginning of this book with the pictures and stuff, and it states,
Nice.
you know, all of our parks and everything, and gives them an outline of what we do.
It's really big. A lot of information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, everything historical is in there, so where they can go for information, for help, so it is very useful.
Is that up on the website already?
The
The-
old
the old
version.
The
one
old
is,
version,
Not that
not
one,
that,
yeah.
not
That's
that
the
one.
they're working on, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
alrighty. Let's see. And if, well, we don't have that, we'll send that out for review before we make a
The new
copy or
one?
make it, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it was just a few tweaks and stuff.
There-
Some projects we did that we thought deserved to be on the picture, and we took some off that been up there for a while. New business?
But just before we move from that, I did have some possible changes I was gonna bring up and kinda see how you all feel about them for the CPC plan. Cause this would be the spot if we wanted to give some more clarification on, you know, our housing projects and what we're looking for. Same thing with deed restrictions. There's three kinda topics I pulled out that I was wondering about. Private projects sold within X amount of years after receiving a CPA grant must return the grant, how we feel about that. We've had a couple instances and close calls of CPA grant awarded projects being sold soon after.
Yeah.
And there's been questions about, you know, returning the money, changing of the uses, stuff like that. So if we wanted to put a protection in for the residents in the city of Fall River in that regard, this would be a good place to introduce it and kind of set a precedent. I don't know about the time frame. I put within 10 years, but that might be a little egregious.
That's,
Like,
yeah.
it's just,
That's
I,
long.
it's up to you. I have no
I-
preference.
I think it's on the value of the grant that we give.
Mhm.
I know, we had talked about, now statewide, community housing is 40%. We're only 10%. I don't think we get projects that, you know, are just, I don't wanna say outrageous, because they're great projects, but on our side of funding it, doesn't make sense. So we came up with a proposal to recommend that the category designate at least 20% of the project total as affordable housing. So we just did a building on Pleasant Street, had 27 units, we did 3. That would have changed it to 6. Not a great deal, but for somebody that, given another 3 units, might not be able to afford that, then community housing with us is not the idea to go. Because we're thinking somewhere around, you know, 25, 30,000 to rehab a unit is possible, you
Right.
know. When you get in the new building, it's 125, and for us to fund 3 affordable housings in a 30 unit just doesn't make sense for us.
No.
So if we could put that in, that probably should be something we put in.
Yeah, I have that actually as the housing is its own kind of separate. I have 2 other suggestions for housing, but that was
Okay.
one of them. If you wanted to tie up the private project sold question before moving to
Yeah.
that.
How about we do a 5-year with 20% each year?
I'm curious to see what other
You mean
communities
a
do.
reduction?
They don't do anything.
Hmm.
This is a reduction?
It would be
you
back,
would pay back after 4
If
years,
they sold in the
80%?
first year, they'd have to pay 80%
Sure.
back.
Mhm.
Or we could
Yeah.
make it 100% payback. then so on down the road.
I say make it 100, so that way, you know,
Yeah, I mean, we don't want someone, even a little, 200,000, and then putting new windows in a place, and then they sell it, I mean,
Exactly.
you know.
I like the
deed
idea of.
restriction does stay with the building. But I just don't wanna, I think doesn't look good on our part. It looks like we funded somebody to make more money.
Yeah,
on it.
Right.
the use
I
isn't.
I like the 5-year, but without any reduction
Yep,
in value.
100%.
Stay with the 5-year, 100%.
I agree.
That's
If they sell it
Okay.
anytime within
All
5
right.
years, they pay
Yep.
it back.
payback.
All right,
Yeah,
sounds
I mean,
good.
and we can kind of iron out the details as needed. I'm guessing we would have to have some conversations with the city and
Yeah,
such about the wording. Okay. That was just an idea, to kind of cover the city in regards to, like, we don't fund many private projects, and it's because we're kind of cautious about them for good reason with past precedent.
Mhm.
Then housing, as John mentioned, the 20% limit, or the 20% requirement is a suggestion. So I wrote up the wording as, it's under the community housing section. The Community Preservation Committee recommends that proposed projects in the community housing category designate at least 20% of the project's total units as affordable housing. That's essentially the wording it would be, or it could change. And then my other two thoughts were any funds received for projects in the community housing category must be used solely for the creation or support of affordable housing units in the project. That kind of stems from the elevator question that we came upon, where
yeah.
we found out from the CPC coalition that if we're funding an elevator, it's supposed to be solely used for the community. Like if we're funding an elevator under community housing, it's supposed to directly and solely support
Those
community
units,
housing,
yeah.
those units, which in some plans hasn't been the case. So this is kind of to help clear that up for applicants. And then this, I had mentioned during the last round of funding, it was a suggestion, but in trying to figure out the value of an affordable unit, so they can't, as John was talking about, request, $500,000 to create 3 units of affordable housing. The cost doesn't really equalize. And then when I asked the Community Preservation Coalition, which is the nonprofit that John, the nonprofit that helps a lot of CPCs in the state, this is from that chain of thought. The amount of funds requested in the community housing category to purchase affordable housing restrictions should equal the value of the restrictions the city of Fall River will receive. And that's done by comparing the market rate value versus the affordable unit rate. And that is just kind of a guidance, I feel. It's not, these are all just guidances. It's just,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to do everything on a case-by-case basis, but it's just to kind of give people an idea of what we're looking for in community housing projects and how we think the benefits will extend to the residents.
Yeah.
Do you guys,
Yeah.
everyone like that?
I mean, in the long run, we're just trying to use the taxpayers' money more efficient and
Right.
in the right way.
In the way that's gonna benefit the
Yeah.
most.
And we'll take a vote on all this stuff when we get the final proofs,
Mhm.
so.
And then one other thought I had was under the historic preservation category, and it was maybe setting or expanding upon the deed restriction length for historic preservation properties. I've seen, I think in past versions, anywhere from 15 to 30 years. I don't know if we wanted to kind of set an expectation for historic preservation projects. I personally think that maybe the city project should have a higher deed restriction, since the community's investment on those city-created or built buildings is higher than a public or a nonprofit. So I kind of feel like there should be more value with the deed restriction for the residents with public properties. I'm kind of looking at the Armory as an example. I think there was an existing deed restriction on it that's more in perpetuity, but the one that the CPC put on it, it would be kind of halfway to expiring, and now we're talking about selling it. So if you kind of look at it in terms of an investment or for the community, it might be questionable to some. So maybe I think the worst for city-owned projects at least would be increasing the length, but it's just a thought.
Yeah.
What do we have it at, 15?
I've seen different things. I
Yeah.
don't know if there has
Yeah,
been a
that-
set.
They,
I thought we
Because I
had.
saw 30, I think, on the Armory, but I've seen others at 50.
when they
No,
do the
30 was
restrictions, it's
from
kind
the
of based
state
on the
one, I
value
think.
of
Yeah.
money they took in a grant. So
Yeah.
if they take for $1 million building and they only take 50,000 to redo something, you're really not gonna put a 30-year on, probably like a 15 is good. You know,
Yeah, that
so
gets
it's
a
kind
little
of our
tricky.
discretion on how long we wanna make it.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick thought, I mean, for me, it gets a little tricky, like here in Bristol County, like, you know, we have 3 cities, which is City of Fall River, City of New Bedford, and the City of Taunton. And if you look at all 3 cities, you know, all the buildings are old.
Yeah.
And they're falling apart. But besides that, which is the number one thing, they're not upkept. So I think when the city comes in before the board to ask money, is basically because they haven't been able to upkeep any of these buildings, and it's, you know, the maintenance on it, you know, and then with
Yeah.
inflation, you take that into consideration, is just to kind of keep it somewhat of afloat. You know, it's like, hey, we need a new roof, because it's just costing them a lot to, you know, have a crew in there
Yeah.
doing all the repairs. You know, I mean, you know, real quick, you know, just the reason why they created, you know, capital improvement plan for cities, because for that reason, it's just a lot of old building, and it's just, cities don't have money. So it's just something to think about. I'm not saying nay
No.
or yay, I'm just saying, just kind of think about that, because, I mean, again, I see it because I work in public service, so I see it daily. You know, so just keep that in mind when we
Yeah.
want to put, you know, deed restrictions. Like John said, if the building's worth $1 million and we're giving them 50,000, I mean, 15 years, you know, it's just, it actually is going to cost the residents more, because you also have to remember is that besides maintaining the building, when there's weather inclement, the taxpayers are paying city workers to go and shovel and plow those buildings. It's costing
Yeah.
money. So, you know, we also got to keep the buildings warm. You know, that's expensive in itself. So you start thinking of all those factors.
Yeah.
They just don't, you know, like at that, you know, our own personal home, where you just, you know, kind of shut off the lights and just drop the heat down to, you know, freezing
Yeah.
temperature, because the heating bill is expensive. So just keep that in mind. Again, it's just, I see it because, you know, it's just kind of the realm I'm in. But just when you guys think of which direction you
Yeah.
want to go, keep that in the back of your
I
head.
just have a question. So if it were extended to 30 years for a city building, and let's say in 8 years, they just decide, you know what, we have to close this building. There's nothing we can do. What happens
Well,
at
they
that
can't
point?
knock it down. The deed restriction means they can't knock it down, so their option at that point is to try and sell the building. But at least the deed restriction goes with the building. So if the city can't afford to maintain a building, then they sell the building, but they can't knock it down.
Right, but see,
So-
so in my realm, so there's been quite a few instances where it's like, you know, like a old nursing home or a old, you know, police station, that's like, they can't do much with it. They have to knock it down and build whatever they're gonna build.
Yeah.
So, you
And
know,
they
you don't,
should.
because you don't know what the future holds. I mean, you haven't, you know, when you're selling a property, you don't know what the investor that's coming in, what their idea and thoughts are. So if you're saying, hey, you know, we're gonna put a deed restriction, I mean, at first for the city, it's a win-win, because they're like, hey, we're keeping the building for now, but we don't know what the future holds down the road, so it's just a thought, so just keep that in the back, again, because I live and breathe this, so I'm
Yeah.
just sharing that with you guys, because
It's like when we, what was 5 years ago, the police station came before us for a new roof, because it was gonna be sold. But we couldn't get a guaranteed on not even purchase and sale, not even any kind of information.
Right.
So for us to vote on spending $250 on a building that is in dire shape, I mean, it's, you know, ready to collapse inside. We couldn't see spending $250,000. Okay, we'd have a deed restriction, but we have a deed restriction on a building that is going to probably fail.
Come down, yeah.
Right, I
so,
mean, I think, okay, I'm sorry.
yeah,
No.
kind of got to use our own, when we have individual projects come, can the city maintain it? And if not, do we want to invest in it, you know?
I think what, you know, another thought would be if the way and again, this is just my own, just thinking about this real quick. Someone comes before us for funds for an old building. I mean, what is the purpose of that building? If it's vacant and they just want money just to do a new roof, you know, that's, you know, there's no offices in there, no one's using it. It's just an abandoned building. do we, you know, at that point in time, that we could just make that determination and say, hey, there's no one in there. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of think that lends credence to the idea because any project that comes before the committee should have a pretty solid idea about the future of the building. In which case, if they didn't, like as your example with the police
Then we
station,
don't
the
fund
funding
it.
is not denied. But if they do seem sincere and have taken the steps to, you know, ensure a redevelopment of a historic building, then I don't think a longer deed restriction will do anything but ensure that reality is more
Yeah.
so brought to
Right.
light. This is just a suggestion, so I would, like, maybe even just giving a range of possible length of deed restrictions rather than not saying anything, so people are aware of the possibilities. Then on a case-by-case basis, we could kind of look at where the value is and what, you know, the length of time would be appropriate for the funding requests and, you know, the benefit of the community. It's mostly just kind of giving a range or an idea rather than having it
Locking it into
change
No,
year
right.
over year. Or like there hasn't really been, I think, a set in the plan anyway.
no, right, and another thing, and again, just thinking even, diving even deeper, I mean, so here in our county, just like anywhere in Massachusetts and pretty much across the country, all cities and towns, they all, by now, they all have a capital improvement plan where it's a between 3 to 5 year to 10 year. So it's all in writing as to what they're trying to do. So, you know, if someone comes before us, we're like, yeah, it's part of our, okay, well, show us the plan. You know, because they pay a top dollar to have architects come in and just go through that plan, you know, and just say, hey, this is what we're planning to do with all these different buildings. Because basically it's just upkeeping the buildings is really what that plan is. So at that set point in time, if it's not part of that, you know, that building's not part of the capital improvement plan, then we can just say, you know, make the determination here and just say, yeah, if it's not part of it, how can you really reassure this committee that
So,
what you're trying to do is not just to kind of,
Yeah.
right.
you know,
Most-
bandage it for now. So just another thought.
Yeah.
So
Most
we-
of- Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we have a master plan for the city
I was
that
gonna
was
say.
done.
Yeah, that's basically what it, yeah.
The city
Yeah.
councilors never refer to the master plan, in anything that gets done. You have a plan, like you have the planning committee that never refers to the master plan. All this money that was spent and nothing was done, and it's a great master plan, and there's a lot of information in that about preservation for the parks, preservation for historical buildings and things like that, and yet nobody in the city actually uses the master plan, and
Right.
it's really frustrating.
But you know
Yeah,
what
so-
you know what it is? So the difference is between a master plan and a capital improvement plan. A master plan is to design to say, this is all my wish list, right? This is all the stuff I want to do. They put it in there, and then they can go and kind of cherry pick it. The capital improvement plan is something that's a set deal because they have to go out and get bonds.
Yeah.
That
Right.
doesn't happen overnight. You're talking about, okay, for FY, you know, 30, this is what we're doing. So you kind of start the process, and, you know, in a couple of years to get there. You know, so that's the difference between the two. So a
Right,
master
but
plan
even
is
the
just
master plan, they don't even use it in planning ahead for these projects that may come up in the city or things that they want, and they're not even following a
Yeah.
master plan. and
Well,
they
that's what I'm
just
saying,
kinda do everything
there's
willy-nilly,
two of them is, so the master plan is design, again, it's just, it's a difference between that and the capital. So the master plan is designed to say, okay, let's look at the whole city as a whole, right? And then just say, okay, these are all of our buildings, this is what we want to do with them, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's all the wish list, right? That's something we would like to see happen. Each year, they can, I mean, it doesn't have to be part of the capital improvement plan. They can also just say, hey, you know, let's say like facilities can say, okay, we can undertake this, you know, this from the master plan because we have it in our budget. We have the room to
Yeah.
actually do this because, you know, let's say from a scale of 1 to 5, this project is very urgent. But then, you know, then you also have the capital improvement plan where they get, you know, special funding for it. They go out and get bonds for those. So this is kind of like a two-part process to it, but the master plan is really just of what they would like to see happen. It's a
Yeah.
wish list. It's not nothing really concrete, because it's just once you have the master plan, it's like, okay, you know, this is the master plan for 10 years. Sometimes it just gets put right in the bookshelf.
That's
And then
exactly
every
how
year,
it is.
it's like, okay, what do we want to do? You know, it's nothing
Yeah.
concrete, so.
Providence has been following their master plan since the 1980s. Every mayor that goes in just turns the,
New Bedford too,
And-
New
and,
Bedford is
you know,
is
it-
pretty good with their master plan.
because you've got, a lot
I
of the
work for New
projects, you
Bedford, I
gotta go
know.
out for grants, you gotta do bigger things.
I was part of
so,
that, I know.
Yeah.
So back to the deed restriction ranges, do we like including a possible set of ranges, or?
I
Yeah, good,
I think
conclusion.
15
so.
to 30,
I like
like
it.
that's both
You wanna
numbers
say
I've
a
seen. So
minimum of 5,
5 to 30.
or
Oh, we need more than 5. I think
Rick, you
5
didn't
is.
I
bring
don't
the
think we've
is
done
too-
package
that low.
with you, did
you've
you?
never gone that
Which
low?
one?
I think it's
The
15 or
deed,
30.
we
I
have
think-
going?
I think it
No.
was, yeah.
No.
So I have
didn't.
it's listed with the years.
Yeah, no, I
I
didn't.
just,
I mean, we can
we just
not.
updated, I have all the deed restrictions and it lists all the years that we did, on
I
them, so.
don't, no, I didn't bring that with me.
I didn't bring it
That's-
because
We can decide the range.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can decide, I was gonna
do
say, yeah,
that.
we
It
can,
was just-
we
I'll
can
put,
think
like,
about it a little bit
placeholder
more.
for the
Yeah.
range.
Yeah.
It's just, you know,
Yeah. I think
so people
5
know,
I
Between
think
it doesn't
15
say
is
how long
too
the deed
low to
restricted.
start.
15 and 30 years, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will say that Bill Kinney now is involved as our attorney for deed restrictions,
Mhm.
and he's away for another week or two, but when he returns, he's gonna look at trying to establish maybe something that's uniform. Right now, our deed restrictions almost vary from property to property to property.
Mm.
So, when he gets back, we're gonna meet and sit down and look at that particular aspect of the deed restrictions. So,
Yeah.
within a month, hopefully, we'll have something more tangible.
Good.
Yeah. I think I sent, one of the things I sent from CPA, I think it had in there deed restrictions, and they said simplifying it standard is
Yeah.
the best way to go.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yep. And Bill's in that mindset.
Yeah.
He says it should be a standardized form, these variances that are involved in the restrictions that we presently have, he said, it's not a good way to operate. And it's very true, I
Yeah.
agree.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know he's gonna start with the Abbey first and then
Yes.
work his way back from
Yep.
last year, going back.
Right.
Okay.
So, all done with the CPC plan? Okay. New business?
I want to make a motion to, if, I mean, I know we can't really vote or do anything tonight, but just to review, Sandy Dennis's salary and hours, because she's never had an increase since she's been doing this, and I think
it's been-
that's something, like.
We didn't do an
10
increase
years.
last year?
No, she's not part of the city
No.
contract where she gets the
And you
bump.
saying we don't have a salary?
No,
No.
but
No, for this,
she
what we
doesn't get the
pay
city
her.
bumps.
Oh, gotcha, yep.
We haven't done anything in 10 years, so
Oh.
Yeah,
So just add it to
And,
the agenda.
we'd like to give her some more added duties of taking the minutes, so. But we'll discuss that at next meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
so
put it in the
if we
agenda
can-
for discussion, yeah.
yeah.
And then we also had, can't really discuss too much of it, the Historical Society ran into a road bump, which I gave you a copy of,
Mm-hmm.
that they got their 1.4 million grant in, and somehow someone overlooked something in the project, and they need some extra emergency funding, so they're gonna be on September 18th agenda, so just read that over so you'll be caught up.
Okay.
Anything else on new business? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I-
Aye.